where we're discussing the 23rd edition of the World Economic Forum on Africa. I still have Yunus Suleman, Chairman, KPMG, South Africa. And with us still is Martyn Davies, CEO of Frontier Advisory. Innocent Dutiro from Bain Company is a partner. And now on our debate, we're joined by Forbes editor Chris Bishop. And we'll also have, of course, from our Lagos studios, we'll be joined by Folunso Phillips. He is chairman of the Nigeria Economic Summit Group. Gentlemen, I'm going quickly because we have a lot to discuss and there's very little time to go. Chris, let me begin with you. The impressions we got before you joined us were that infrastructure was an important part of the conversation. Mobility was an important part of the conversation. Issues around skills, education were also important. Integration, particularly, was also a key focus of the meeting. From your interviews, what did you pick?
No, I mean, I thought that at least at this particular WEF, there was a plan put out of these 50 infrastructure projects, of which are going to be whittled down to 15. I thought there was some skepticism I was picking up because people were saying it's okay to draw lines on the map, etc., and want to go from Cape to Cairo, whatever. But there was also a feeling, though, that there were plans being made, that people were prepared to put up their money, even though everyone accepted it was going to be a struggle in the present climate. I felt that there was a bit more cohesion in the way people were looking forward and trying to get the money together. But as we know, it's going to cost something like $100 billion to actually even make a dent in the infrastructure problem. So that's the kind of feeling I was getting.
Yeah. And so if we take that conversation forward then from what Chris is saying in terms of the interviews, the commitment that you are seeing from the people that you saw at WEF. Let me begin with you, Innocent, before we go to Nigeria, because we've got to get the guy from Nigeria's thoughts on this as well. Just what was your sense in terms of the commitment of the political leaders? Because we can all talk until, as the white people say, we are blue in the face, I won't get blue. But we can all do that until they commit, until they put in place policies, structures, procedures, we can't move. What was your sense?
Fortunately, I won't be turning blue either. So, my sense was that having been to several World Economic Forum meetings in Africa, the biggest criticism that the forum attracts is that it's a talk shop, and from one year to the other, the agenda changes, and there's no reflection on what happened.
Is it not meant to be a talk shop?
It is. But if it is a talk shop, in between the talk shops, there has to be action. Sure. And at the next talk shop, maybe we need to talk about what we talked about last year and how far we've gone. So what the commitment for what was missing was obviously timelines in terms of all the commitments that are there, but within what timelines. We are setting up a BRICS bank. When? Right. We need $93 billion for infrastructure spend. Yes. And African Development Bank came up with a solution in terms of getting money from reserve banks or central banks. Yeah. When is that going to happen? Yeah. So in my view, that's what was missing in terms of commitment.
Absolutely. Let's take that conversation to West Africa. Mr. Phillips, you're joining us now. You tell us, from where you sit, from your conversations with business leaders, with private sector leaders, and your colleagues from this side, what did you come away with?
Well, I think that fortunately what was coming up each time, surprisingly enough, was the issue about jobs. Because irrespective of what individual companies and organizations were doing, I think the leadership is beginning to appreciate the fact that we need to convert all these wonderful potential we're talking about into jobs. And how do we do that? It's propping up, and there's a slight trepidation on the part of the leadership that, look, if we don't deal with this issue now, we've got this huge bulge of young people that don't have work. It's beginning to stare us in the face in various ways, especially in a place like Nigeria. Yeah. That there's a huge and increasing consciousness about jobs, creating jobs.
Yeah. I'm going to come to you and ask you what you are going to add to the agenda for 2014. But before we do, let's just talk about the jobs issue. Did it receive enough attention from you two guys?
I think if you look at it, I mean, 200 million youth between 15 and 25 are there in Africa. Yeah. That's the largest population in the world. And I think although we talked about skills development and education, I don't think enough time was spent on that. And possibly for 2014, Folunso is going to really going to blow our minds away because it's going to be in Abuja.
Yeah.
And him being the chairman of the actual summit group,
yeah,
which is going to host it, we're going to expect a lot more delivery.
Absolutely.
And I think in terms of what was mentioned by Innocent about tracking the actual progress between this year and next year,
yeah,
I think it will be really, really practical to display in Nigeria what has been spent on infrastructure
yeah,
between this year and next year, because definitely that's not being tracked.
Yeah.
There is no, let's say, closing structural plan and then following up on
or
the
a
following
structure
year
for the follow-ups.
and to say what is the follow-up.
Yeah. Martyn?
No, just to add to that is, we need to see the centre of gravity of interest.
Yeah.
For me, at the forum this year was not so much Southern Africa, despite the fact it's in Cape Town, was largely East Africa, but inclining towards West.
Right.
East Africa, new leadership in Kenya.
Yeah.
What's happening in Nigeria is obviously exciting for all of us. But the point is from his conversations, and as you said about this talk shop, is, and Flosi got hit the nail on the head, is what are states doing thereafter?
Right.
The visa issue. Rwanda's the only country on this continent, I would argue the most agile economy or country on this continent, which has made sort of visa-free access for everybody going into the country. Why are we not seeing states becoming more, getting exposed to these phenomenal ideas and content at the forum, becoming more proactive around policy and actually implementation, and differentiating themselves as broader Africa conversation, about Africa Rising, and rather talking about specific countries rather than sort of this amorphous place called Africa.
Yeah, it was interesting because then at the summit, just before the summit started, there was the Nigerian state visit by Goodluck Jonathan, and they did announce a relaxation of visas of some kind where now business people are able to get 3-year visas. Chris, you wanted to add in something quickly because we need to get the agenda for 2014.
But the thing I foresee as well, what I'm picking up at WEF, was the fact there's going to be a large-scale bickering between a lot of African nations over this infrastructure. I mean, people were saying that everybody wants the best airport, everybody wants the best port, everybody wants the best roads in their own country. And this idea of creating hubs, which was discussed, where you get infrastructure grouping together in certain regions, there may be some discussion and conflict over actually who gets what. And I can foresee that's going to be a lot of talking before Abuja next year.
Well, there was certainly a lot of talking between Nigeria and South Africa, I can tell you that, because I attended one of the sessions and it was very, very interesting indeed. Felicia, let me come to you. You've had one item on the agenda for 2014. Give us what you think 2014 ought to focus on, because as Yunus mentioned earlier, you are on the organizing committee. It's going to be in Nigeria. According to some people, Nigeria is going to be the top dog in Africa economically. Some say it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, I think to start off with, very, very briefly, Nigeria is extremely excited about the opportunity to host WEF, and a lot of preparations already in place, and the president is taking particular interest in all this. We've got the coordinating minister for the economy, our finance minister, and the chief economic advisor to the president actually handling and managing this whole event. We've got the committee set up and everybody's all getting ready. So from a physical sort of support point of view, that's in place.
Right.
When we begin to look at content issues, we're saying that, look, I've talked about the issue about youth, about the young people, but there's also issues about, it's almost like what do we do at the Nigeria Economic Summit Group? From one summit to another, we've got several policy commissions that are pursuing different tracks. And the whole idea is that by the end of the year, when we meet again for another summit, these different policy commissions are actually reporting on what it is that they're coming up with and what they've done during the year.
Yeah.
So we're talking about performance management here. What are the key performance indicators that we need to set for ourselves from one summit to another?
Yeah.
What are the things that we need to achieve, and how do we sort of distribute these things amongst the different countries? WEF is not an African Union thing whereby we're saying we're all under one umbrella, therefore we can, as a kind of a corporate entity, see what the departments are doing.
Yeah.
We have a situation here where everybody, they're free to do what they want, and we believe that they have some kind of commitment to a central cause for Africa.
Yeah.
But having said that, there are different pressures that each one faces. So I think for us, it's what are the key performance indicators that we're going to be watching? How are we going to measure how well we're doing and how much we're achieving, so that we don't become a talk shop and we actually deliver on results?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, the other thing about infrastructure is that we mustn't forget that the infrastructure development in Africa is not going to be done by Africans. We're going to depend on the rest of the world to come with the level of expertise, capability, competence, and the cash to be able to deliver on it. who is going to be doing it? Is it the Chinese, the Americans, the Europeans, who?
Yeah.
Because there's still a battleground that I see as far as that's concerned.
Falunsha, before I let you go, I must ask you, do you think we'll be able to get all Africans to come to Abuja without visas, or at least get visas on arrival?
Well, I can literally guarantee you that for Africans to come to Nigeria on the visa issue there'll be no problems. Africa is so excited, Nigeria is so excited about this that I can almost promise you that there will be no issues about visas getting into Nigeria.
Abuja
I can almost promise you that.
Abuja 2014, here we come. Chris, I want to go through all of you gentlemen. One item on the agenda that you think should be added very quickly. If I can start with you and then come through our gentlemen very quickly.
Okay, well, I would say for a start, education. What are people being educated?
Education must
be millions
be
of people who are great at literature or social sciences, or should we be getting people who can make things?
I agree. The biggest form of empowerment is education. Innocent?
I think two things.
Yeah. It's okay.
Performance management system, as Fola said.
Okay.
And also greater involvement by key business sectors. I think in Cape Town, there was a clear absence of major players in ICT.
Right. That was missing.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks very much.
I think also diversification, more focus on diversification in terms of also having value-added products and converting our raw materials before exporting them.
Yeah. So industrialization, beneficiation, that kind of
making ourselves more competitive to trade with each other and increasing intra-regional trade.
Yeah, absolutely. Martyn?
To add to all of that differentiation, Nigeria has 168 million people, I'm told.
Yeah.
If it had 16 million people or less, would it be interesting? What differentiates the likes of Korea, Singapore, Hong Kong, small populations, but phenomenally competitive and successful states? We need to look at Africa beyond the 1 billion story, beyond the Africa Rising story, and what's differentiating key economies and perhaps regions beyond just the numbers. If you're looking at the continent through a salesman's lens, that's fantastic. But we need to look at long-term success, and that'll be determined by the ability to implement and ultimately the performance of the states themselves.